So now you went from that to a printer's job, right?
Yeah, I did. I worked in a few department stores. Never forget one. It was basically more of a woman's department store. And I'll never forget the guy that owned the store. His name was, he was Jewish, like most of the merchants in town were. Awfully nice man. And he used to say, "Tommy, hang it on the hangers." And I worked there, and then there was a neighbor of my, former neighbor of my parents, a German man, Joe Thuringer. And he owned a print shop called Rochester Typographic, which operated until 20 years ago. But he needed somebody to run errands all over the city. Because what he did is he'd set up, in those days if you want to do advertising, you had to take a thing to the newspaper, a plate, that using type. So he had a couple of linotype machines and all this various kinds of type and things like that. And he had people that set the type, printers. It was a union shop. But the guys didn't mind me being not union. And I'd basically rent all the advertising agencies or stores and delivered proofs for them is what I did. And then when I come back, I'd basically take the old plates apart and redistribute the type in the type drawers. And there was a certain way you had to do that. You had to recognize the fonts and everything, and then there's type drawers. There's the way printers had it was there was a certain logic set up in Germany back a long time ago. I'm losing my voice, unfortunately. But Joe, yeah, thank you.
Cool.
Thanks. Joe was very, he liked me. And when I got around to, I worked there for several years in high school. And when I was getting ready to graduate and decide what to do, he offered to put me in RIT, which had a world-renowned printing school. He offered to pay for it. And I had run into, I had responded to an ad in the paper where RIT had announced the formation of a ham radio club while I was still in high school. So I showed up at that meeting one evening and met these guys that were college students and showed them how to hook the radios up. And then they invited me back and said, you ought to come to this school when you graduate. And I didn't realize they had electrical engineering, so I said, sure. So I went back one evening and they introduced me to one of the professors. And it turns out he was a guy I used to deliver newspapers to. And his name was Dr. Ken Kimpton. And he showed me, the curriculum, and it was basically all about how do you wind a motor, how do you run a motor, how do you design the fluorescent bank of lights for building, and it basically was electrical engineering. And a little electronics, of which he was probably, that was his favorite thing. But not a lot of electronics in those days. But anyway, that's how I decided that I didn't want to take Joe's offer, but RIT was a good place because it offered co-op, which means that I could work 3 months, go to school 3 months. And that's the only way you could afford to go there, to go to school in those days.